Hello everybody, Xander here, and today we're back with another singular book review. Last time we started this new sort of thing with a Batman manga, and we're still in the realm of comics as our next book discussion is Ultimate Spider-Man #1 by Jonathan Hickman as the writer and artist Marco Shikshito, I think. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but I hope I got it somewhat right. And this is the first issue of a new reboot of the Marvel Ultimate Universe, which is in itself kind of a off to the side modernized reboot of the Marvel Universe. And it's starting off strong with Spider-Man, one of my favorite Marvel heroes, and probably some of you guys' favorite hero too. And it's quite a different interpretation. For a quick summary without spoilers, this is a alternate version of Peter Parker. Peter Parker is a grown man now, but the more important thing is that he does not have his powers yet, which is, I guess, not a spoiler because it's the first issue, so it's like the beginning of the story. But yes, Peter Parker does not have his spider powers, but he does have a family, and he is working with his Uncle Ben at the Daily Bugle, and he's just living his regular life, and that's, I think, all I can say, really. So let's go into kind of vague details for those who are just wanting to watch this without being spoiled, and then we'll go into spoilers. So the writing so far is decent, I would say. It's an interesting interpretation of Spider-Man, and I like alternate takes on characters when they're done really well. Of course, we gotta talk about art, because what else would you talk about? Art's pretty good. Obviously, there's going to be some mundane stuff, because this is not only the beginning of the story, but it's also about a powerless Peter Parker. But yeah, it's done really well. I think how it utilizes some of the classic Spider-Man characters already is pretty interesting. And in a way, it's kind of going off of current stuff at the same time, because I know there's like regular Spider-Man stuff where he has a family, except it's just kind of weird from what I've heard, and of course confusing, because comics can get confusing. But for the most part, it's pretty good, and I'm excited to read more. So yeah, go read this if you haven't yet. And yeah, I think we are ready for spoilers, so please leave if you want to read this yourself. Alright, so let's talk about, the nitty-gritty of the story. So this, like I said, is a universe where Peter Parker doesn't get bit by a spider and becomes Spider-Man. Instead, he has lived his whole life as a regular, average man who is able to have a family with Mary Jane Watson, just like he often does, I guess. We got this MJ here. Got his family. Pretty nice. And then Peter works at the Daily Bugle, just like in most of the comics. And we got our boy J. Jonah Jameson. How can you not have J. Jonah Jameson? But The difference is that Uncle Ben is working for the Daily Bugle as well, or at least he's like kind of a higher up next to Jonah, which is another twist. Uncle Ben is still alive, and Peter has no powers, so quite the interesting thing. And, Peter is getting ready for a thing with his uncle, and we can tell from this bit here that not only is Jonah a somewhat stable guy in this version, but he's friendly with Uncle Ben and a bit with Peter, so pretty cool, but he's still got that Jameson charm. And some things happen, like Jonah tells Peter that, the event he's going to would probably need a tie or whatever, so he gives him his tie and helps him tie the tie. But he also wants Uncle Ben, or he wants Peter to try to figure out if Uncle Ben's doing all right, because he doesn't seem too okay to him. So, like, they're walking through the street, and, Peter's trying to ask, hey, are you all right, Uncle Ben? And he's trying to pass it off like everyone's worried about you, but Ben knows that, Peter's mostly talking for himself. And Peter, just fesses up and is just like, I'm worried about you. And we can tell that something bad happened through the way they're talking. They're not being specific, but we know something happened at some point. And Ben's like talking to him about when he and Aunt May took care of him after his parents died. And he's like asking if there's ever a day that goes by that it doesn't hurt when they're gone. And Peter says no. And Ben then replies with, then you know exactly how I feel. And then we go to like a crowd of people, and it turns out we then cut to like a crowd of people at like a park, I believe, and it turns out that everyone is here for a memorial for a terrorist attack, which shocked me a little bit. I was surprised, but surprised me even more is the fact that Aunt May is one of those people who passed. But quick moment, I also had an even bigger mind blow when it shows the zoom out panel of the memorial, and it shows Norman Osborn. See, I'm pretty sure there's some other people here, or at least I thought. Guess not. I almost thought there's a couple other Marvel characters in here, but I guess not. I guess I might have read some of them wrong, but who knows. And then it seems like Matt Murdock is the priest, so this is also clearly a universe where Daredevil doesn't exist. And Peter's there with his family and Uncle Ben, listening to Matt Murdock give a speech, and in one panel we can see Uncle Ben crying because he misses May, and then we see that Harry Osborn is coming up to make his own speech. Like I mentioned, Norman Osborn was one of the casualties. And, he's talking about his dad and a memory he had with him playing ball and how he thinks about that all the time. So there's that sort of stuff. We also figure out through Peter talking to MJ that this is also a universe where Peter doesn't become friends with Harry like he usually does. So things are like a lot different, and not just Peter not becoming Spider-Man. Peter and Ben, go back to the Daily Bugle, and we see that in the closed off meeting room, Jonah is having a fit, and storms out saying he quits. And Ben's like, we'll catch up later, and then he goes to see what's going on. And apparently the Bugle's going for some restructuring and how they tell their news. And we find that the guy who's kind of running things way up top is actually Wilson Fisk, who we all know is the Kingpin. So he offers Ben a promotion because, Jonah quit. But we find out later that Ben declined, and he and Jonah are going to go to a bar and hang out. But before that, we have a cutaway part where Fisk is getting out of his limo, and it blows up in front of him and his bodyguard. They're flown away, and we see that we meet this version of the Green Goblin in kind of a suit reminiscent of the Sam Raimi Green Goblin, just without the goblin face. But we cut to a bar where Ben and Jonah are talking, and eventually they come to the idea that they'll start their own news business. And Ben's like, we're going to do it right. We're going to tell the truth. And then Jonah starts laughing. And, he's talking about how there's no truth in the news and no news in the truth. And he, at the end of this conversation, he's like, how about this? We promise not to lie. And they drink to that. And then Peter shows up. And, they catch him up on it. And Peter's obviously like, do you have any money? And Jonah's like, yeah, we'll figure that out later. And then Peter and Ben talk more personally about it. And Ben is kind of real with Peter, being like, I've lived my life. My wife's dead. You've got a family and wife of your own. I'm not going to live my life compromising anymore. So he's going to live on his own terms now. And Peter then tells Ben that he feels like there's something wrong with him, or some piece of his life is missing that he can't explain, yet he's still happy with MJ and all of that, but he still feels weird for some reason. Later, Peter, make sure his kids are asleep. And when he goes to the living room, he and MJ talk. And he gets down to, explaining why he was up late the other night and why he is feeling weird about stuff. Kind of a little bit like how he was talking to Ben earlier. And he needs to change stuff. It's kind of vague, but MJ seems to understand. And when she asks if it'll change anything between them, Peter says never. And MJ just kind of, I guess, goes to their bedroom and tells them to go get him, Tiger. Then Peter gets something out of his bag, goes to the roof of the apartment, and we go to a flashback. Oh my god, this is a long one. Stay with me here. So, while he's working, some sort of electrical current comes out of some sort of box that he has nearby, and it starts talking to him. The electricity turns into a hologram, and we see that it's Iron Man. And he wants to speak to Peter Parker. And, the mask opens up, and he's like a younger Tony Stark. And he says he's Tony Stark. And it's it's inferred, or it's implied earlier, but it's made clear with Peter talking to this hologram that Iron Man somehow had something to do with the terrorist attack. Somehow. And then Tony says that he's sending Peter a message for 6 months into the future, and that there is a attempt on his friends, him and his friends' lives, and something they did kind of went wrong and caused that attack in New York. But Tony tries to be quick about what he's saying, and he's able to open the sort of box that was electrifying earlier, and a metal orb is inside it. And Tony mentions that there is something inside that will change his DNA. And then also inside the orb is a stealth suit to mask his identity. And that's when Tony reveals to Peter that 20 years ago he was supposed to be Spider-Man. So something changed, and someone was somehow manipulating the timeline, so heroes don't really exist in this universe. So they would be able to control the world better. But in present day on the rooftop, Peter opens the orb, and he's got this, the suit, and he's got a vial with a spider inside it. So we got the basics. And in between this, we've got cutaways to earlier parts, like Tony asking if he wants it, and then Ben telling him to wake up and live his life, and MJ telling him to go get him, Tiger. And then he lets the spider bite him, and that's issue 1 of Ultimate Spider-Man, with this teaser panel of an all-black Spidey suit. which is pretty cool actually. But I'm excited to see them eventually get to the OG. And that was Ultimate Spider-Man. Oh my god, that was pretty cool. So yeah, it's definitely a lot of this thing's different from the original thing, but I love that. I love how cool it is. And it's always neat to try to refresh something like Spider-Man and also modernize it more. I'm excited to see how it continues on from there. And then there's other Marvel Ultimate stuff that they're doing with this reboot, like Black Panther and X-Men, which sounds pretty cool. But yeah, I'm excited to read the next issue in February, and I hope to talk more about it. So I hope you excuse the long video of me basically detailing almost everything in this, comic, but I just had to talk about it. So hope you enjoyed this discussion, and I'm again excited to read more. What did you guys think of the first issue of Ultimate Spider-Man? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to also like and maybe subscribe if you like this video. Maybe check out some of my other stuff. And I hope to do more individual book stuff in the future. So, till then, I'll see you guys next time. Take care.